What up YouTube, it's Missouri Hits Company. In this video, we are looking at Scarlet Witch. Now, I've made a lot of videos about Scarlet Witch, but I've also been playing her now as a main with all my best gear, all my best cards. And I've actually changed the build just a hair. The gear is all the same, but the skills are a little bit different. And in my opinion, I think I have found the best skills for Scarlet Witch to the point where you can truly maximize how overpowered she is. Now, I say that because I'm making fun of everyone else who says she's overpowered. I don't think she's overpowered compared to other heroes that have been in this game for a while. I think that she hits incredibly strong and it does well in PvP, which is how she was built to be. I didn't mean to rhyme there, but it worked out. But I mean, we look at Spider-Man, we look at Black Widow, we look at Iron Man. Like, all these heroes have been doing incredibly well for a very long time now. But if you hit Scarlet Witch with like literally anything, she's dead. So it's a give and take, right? It's very much a glass cannon character, so I don't think she needs to be nerfed. But if you want to truly maximize her full potential, do a ton of damage, and stay alive as long as you can with the tools in her disposal, you're going to want to watch this video to the very end. And for those of you that want to see what I'm using for PvE, I will show you that as well. But the build for PvP is what you really want, and that's going to be at the end of the video, so make sure you watch it all the way to the very end, because these skills are fire. And I'm going to break it down a little bit in detail as to why I put them in this order and when specifically you're going to use them in both Dimension Duel and Omega War. Without further ado, let's get straight to the video. All right, so we're just going to touch on, I made a lot of videos about Scarlet Witch, like I said, so we're just going to touch on the gear a little bit. Now, I've always been a big proponent of Eyes of Osiris for Scarlet Witch. I'm not going to say it's the best, but it's between Eyes of Osiris and the, what's the other one? Oh gosh, can't even think about it. Rise of the East. There you go. Rise of the East. The reason being is that the Eyes of Osiris boost your chaos magic, and which does, these are your main damage dealers. As you can see, plus 14, I'm doing 1400 damage. I am one-shotting a lot of people, and I'm talking whales in Dimension Duel and Omega War when I hit them with this. The problem is that I have to hit them with it. So if they dodge, it's a problem. But again, 23-second cooldown, max CDR or close to max CDR, talking about like 13, 14, 15 seconds. It's not too terrible. And then of course it also boosts our Language of Demise. Whereas if you use Rise of the East, it boosts all of your witchcraft skills, which is also you're used basically 3 of them for my PvP build, which right now this is PvE. But so that's the gear that I would recommend. I'm just going to touch on that really quickly. I'm not going to go break down into all the different like non-pay-to-win options or non-special gear because I already made those videos. So go to my loadout video if you want to see those, my builds video, excuse me, Call of Duty reference loadouts. But here we go. So the badges, I personally think that I love the 1 and 5 for these badges because this one gives you plus 6% attack when the battle lasts for 2.5 seconds. And then this one gives you the plus 13% reduction in stamina consumption after the battle lasts for 2.5 seconds, which is just fire. It's really fantastic. And then I went for cooldown with my Thanos badges, so that's why I have that. For stats, obviously, just like anything else, for your head, you're going to want, for PvP, you're going to want at least 2 rolls of D-Pen on it, which is what I have. And then crit rate, crit damage is what you want for everything else. For your chest, you want at least 2 accuracy. Ideally, I would not have this attack here, and I would have this on either crit rate, crit damage. And I have rerolled this particular piece a ton. But you do want at least 2 accuracy rates on your chest, especially for PvP, like I said. That way you can do truly all the damage you can to this pesky little Spider-Man. The gloves, I'm kind of indifferent about my gloves. I have literally 1 of everything. Ideally, I feel like I would want maybe 2 or 3 of the crit damage decrease. But honestly, I'm okay with where I'm at with this. It kind of spreads everything out. I would probably not want the dodge if I could really pick this, but I'm not going to waste. I would rather min-max my head and my chest than I would the gloves. Or the shoes, rather. So shoes. Now, typically you're going to want either stam recovery or cooldown decrease. Now, the reason I only went with, this is perfect rolls for my Scarlet Witch, by the way. I'm going to actually, when I upgrade these boots at least 1 or 2 more times, I'm actually going to get max CDR on my Scarlet Witch. And I'll show you the stats here in a second. Because of where everywhere else I'm getting cooldown. So I use the stam recovery and then the ultimate gauge recovery because her ultimate is disgusting. She benefits so greatly from it. And a big concern a lot of people have is that you don't necessarily live long enough after you do it because of the buildup for your ultimate. And I'm going to tell you, if you use the skills that I tell you at the end of this video, you're going to be able to hit that ultimate a lot and stay alive through it. I pop my ultimate in the middle of a Mega War, and I usually get like 2 to 3 kills every time I do it. It's a lot of fun. You're not going to want to miss that. All right, so that is my ideal stats for Scarlet Witch. I'll go ahead and look at my stats in general. So stamina recovery, I got 66 additional percent there, which is nice. Accuracy rate, I'm at 162, additional 62%, which is enough. Dodge rate, 31, I mean, whatever. Crit rate, I finally got up a little bit higher. What you really want, though, is defense pierce. So ideally, this would be higher, and I would sacrifice a little bit more crit rate. But I'm okay with the balance I'm at right now because I'm getting enough crit rate where I do take advantage of my crit damage, which is very, very high. But then I'm also, whoa, hello there. But then my D-pin is, I wanted it at least over 60. Ideally, 75 is the cap. I would have it closer to that, but that's where we're at. So, and I'm good with this for right now. Like I said, the cooldown reduction at 47.4. When I upgrade my boots a little bit more, just incrementally, I'll be getting those last few percentage points, and I'll be at max CDR, so I'm not worried about there. I do have an additional plus 24% total damage, which benefits all, total damage, all different damage types, which is great for both PVE and PVP. And then let's see. The stats affect accuracy, I guess, if you care, it's at 115%. But PvP damage is at 75, which is cap. And then the PvP cap is in max, not cap is in, it's a lie. And then PvP damage is at 70%. I want to say it'll change a little bit when I go to PvP stance. I think this goes up to like 83 and this goes up to like 73. But total, obviously. So I'm a little overcapped for PvP damage. I'd love to shift that down a little bit more to PvP damage. But I'm so min-max right now, like there's just not enough possible movement. And we'll go into that when you see my cards, which we will transition to right now. So the Omega cards. I did make a video on why I literally just double down on Scarlet Witch and got all of the highest cards I can. I have 3 7s and 3 6s. It is very, very, very strong. So if you just look at some of the stats I have, I got max damage rate, PvP damage decrease, D-pin, and then cooldown is the exclusive stat. I don't have any attack cards. I do have an attack card, the Spider-Man one. I used to have a few more, and I decided to prioritize some of these other non-attack cards, like this one. So I did get this one at max. So I got PvP damage increase, PvP damage increase, and PvP damage decrease, and then guard damage. I guess I could re-roll the guard damages. Actually, it's really card in general. Maybe it could be re-rolled for the bonus stats. But so far, like I said, it's enough. That's probably the only card I would recommend adjusting. Then I have crit damage on my Black Widow. So max damage rate, crit damage decrease. Again, not bad. I would want to re-roll that for more of an offensive stat, but I'm okay with that for right now. And then I did get the total damage in the exclusive stat, which is muy bueno. Again, total damage in the exclusive stat, PvP damage increase, crit damage decrease, PvP damage decrease again. Moving on, I got crit damage here, D-pin, and PvP damage decrease, and then total damage again. And then last but not least, PvP damage increase, dodge rate, which again, that's another one I would want to get rid of. But again, when it comes down to that, this is where I'm getting all my PvP damage, which is what I want. So all in all, I feel very, very good. Enhanced potential, I'll just touch on it really, really quickly. You definitely want to run, obviously, all attack all the way down as soon as you can. That gives you the most damage. And then after that, I would double back and get, where is it? Your D-pin, your defense pierce, and then I would hit the crit damage, and then I would go and get the cooldowns, and then you're going to want to max everything else out because her enhanced potential is pretty sick, I'm not going to lie. And then obviously accuracy rate is nice to have in her enhanced potential to help get that a little bit bonus. Now, for PvE, the specializations that I use are as follow. I'm using this one, which gives recover stand by 30% once every 5 times a skill is used. Even after you use the 5 skills, there's no internal cooldown. So as soon as you use it and you get that increased stamina back, you can immediately start using the skills again to count towards the next 5, which is phenomenal. It's great. It keeps your stamina back. Moving on, I got increase all skill damage dealt to enemies by 30% and the required stamina by 30%. So again, increasing stamina cost, but increasing the total damage, but I'm making up for the stamina both in my battle badges and in that trait. And then this is the PvE one, which is increase all damage dealt to supervillains by 30% for 8 seconds when using a Hex energy class skill. Cooldown is 15 seconds. And then this one, increase damage dealt to immobile targets or targets with status effect. All my abilities do status effect, so that's pretty great. Again, this is PvE. So biggest thing here is that I am using 2 different Hex ones so I can benefit from that trait. So I open it up with my defense down. So you do a little dodge, go in, lowers the defense. Then I hit them with some of my bigger damage abilities. This is the Hex ability that gives me that bonus trait. So for my next one, which again is kind of like my nuke skill, it does even a ton of damage when I get that bonus from my specializations, and I get that additional damage on supervillains. And then I just use this one for the HP. I personally just like it in PVE. It's only a max of 15% HP, but it's enough to care. You know, it is what it is. And then last but not least, I do use this one, which is the Hex Release, Hex Break. It's a 9-second cooldown, max CDR. It's like 4 or 5 seconds. And then it does 416% damage. A nice quick skill. It hits multiple people if they're close by. It feels good. So it's just a skill that I can keep spamming really once everything is on cooldown until I get my full rotation back. So that's it for PvE. Now this is already getting to a 10-minute long video, but I do want to show you guys everything. This is the bread and butter. So this is my PvP spec. Like I said, there was some adjustments here. I think as I said, I mean, I'm almost maxed out PvP damage, but I do have this excess PvP damage. I'm sorry, I'm almost maxed on PvP damage decrease, but I am over capped on that PvP damage. That's where I would like to make those adjustments I said in my cards, but it's just having enough of those rerolls and spending the resources. But everything else is the same. Now the skills, that's where it gets fun. So actually we'll start with the easy stuff, which is the enhanced potential. I basically keep everything the same with the exception of, and by the same I mean I use this one, which is the increased damage dealt to mobile targets or targets with benefit effects. And then I also do increased damage dealt to enemies by 30%. All right, so the one change I do have here is that instead of using the obviously bonus damage to super villains, instead I use this one, which gives me the increased movement speed. Now, in all my original videos, I said this was not it, and I was dead wrong. This is it. This is a good spec. So, so you increase movement speed by 25% for 2 seconds when using a dodge skill, and when the movement speed increase ends, you decrease cooldown of all skills by 2.5 seconds. My concern with it originally was that I felt like if you have max cooldown, you're not going to be able to benefit from this. Well, I was wrong. You can. You can. It's very noticeable, especially in Dimension Duel, that once you dodge and the speed boost goes away, which is hardly noticeable, by the way, that as soon as that 2 seconds is up, that you can see your cooldown of your skills go by, which is nice. It's actually very, very helpful. The last one I use is going to be the Mystic Witchcraft Witch's Branch. Fires magic that spreads to 5 enemies and deals damage equal to 135% of attack and inflicts silence for 2 seconds when using a witchcraft class skill. Now that's consistent. I've already talked about that one several times in other videos, but when you look at this build, you'll notice why. Biggest difference is my opener is now dramatically different, and I don't use the shield anymore, which I did use for, for a long time actually. The reason I'm actually using this one, which is Shape of Terror, it's all the way at the very end, and it's Shadowy Terror. So what it does is releases a shockwave of energy, dealing 349% damage to nearby enemies and disappears into the shadows. You vanish for 3 seconds and you become invincible for 1 second. This is my opener. Now, it's my opener because of the range. So in Dimension Duel, you can cast this basically as soon as they take like 1 or 2 steps and you don't even move, you can cast it. Why is that important? Because they don't even get to target you yet. They don't even get to use any ability. The range on this alone is phenomenal. So you actually get to open on your enemy, vanish, they can't target you, they're completely victim to your next attack, and then you immediately, before you get back from the like invisibility, you use this one, which is Witch's Darkness, Witch's Descent, and that's the one that again decreases their defense by 25%, and then also for 4.5 seconds and does damage. And because it's a witchcraft skill, will activate the specialization, which is again silencing them and doing damage. So then after that, you immediately hit them with the nuke. Now this is where they might dodge it. So especially in Dimension Duel, Omega War, not so much. You're probably killing somebody with this. At least I typically am. But again, you hit them with this nuke, and in some cases, that's the end of my Dimension Duel. It's literally over after that. But if they dodge it, and again, you have to be pretty quick. So this, I'm explaining it in a lot of detail, but this happens very quickly. So you go invisible, you hit the defense down. As soon as you hit the defense down, you smash this button as fast as you can to hopefully catch them off guard. Because you're running through them, so they have to adjust their camera, and you're non-targetable, and it's a lot going on all at one time. But let's say they dodge it. That's when you're going to go ahead and go invisible again. And this is where people hate Scarlet Witch. And this is the newest change to my build in particular for PvP. So I use Witch's Tongue Reality Warp. So it recovers your ultimate gauge by 19.1%, which really doesn't matter that much for Dimension Duel because you're probably not going to use your ultimate like at all for Dimension Duel. But what it does is it causes you to go invisible. It doesn't say how long you go invisible, but it's really just for like a second or two. All it really matters is that you are untargetable for a second, and you're basically breaking that ability of using a skill for a second, which again interrupts the opposite opponent or the opposite player's like rotation or skills that they're getting ready to use. And then from that, you want to immediately, because keep in mind, it's not that long, you immediately want to hit them with this, which is Language of Demise, Gift of Silence. This one also silences them for 2 seconds, but also inflicts them with a curse, decreases attack by 25% for 6 seconds, and deals damage equal to 23.65% of attack when cursed targets use attack. So if they attack, they then take additional damage. By the time you do this, if you were to burn another dodge, usually I dodge in between 3 and 4. And again, I'm using this as a genuine rotation. So it's like 1, 2, 3, dodge usually. Go invisible, drop my silence on them, dodge again, get my cooldown back. By that time, this skill is already off cooldown, and this one, or I'm sorry, this one does first because this one has a less cooldown, 16 seconds, and then this one's coming back. And then so is this one. Excuse me. So by that time, you literally just repeat your entire rotation. And by that time, you're probably going to be, keep in mind, you still have a whole nother dodge left. You've only used 2 dodges, and that's only if you need to. Because again, you're going to use this, dodge in between here, is generally what happens to me. Go invisible, drop the silence. They're silenced. You can either move away, which is usually what I try to do, and save the second dodge, and then just kind of rotate away while your cooldowns are coming back, and then kind of move back closer to them while your cooldowns are coming up, or use the dodge. But then by that time, you still have a dodge, and maybe even a second one by that time, and then you get your full rotation, which will guarantee you a second dodge. So you're basically ensuring that you always have that getaway feature with your dodge, your active dodge, whenever you get hit by something, or whenever they get to use their big skill. I'm actually doing extremely well in all PvP right now with this build. I'm in 21 in Omega War, 37 in Dimension Duel. Again, I don't push Dimension Duel all that often. 32 in Squad Battle, but actually haven't done mine for today, so that'll actually be probably lower 20s. And again, by the end of the week, which is tomorrow, I'll be spending a little bit more crystals to get some more tries to make that even lower, so I get more crystals at the end of the week. But that's going to do it for this build. I am still loving Scarlet Witch. Like I said, I don't think she needs to be nerfed. I think she is just very strong. She's a heavy hitter, but I mean, like I said, she get hit by anything, she's probably dead. The only thing I didn't mention is companions. Dimension Duel, you want to use Hulk. Omega War, I typically use Baron Mordor, and that's gonna do it. And then everything else you can get is up to you, really. I would love to get my Hulk to 6 stars, but I did not get as lucky as I would have liked. But I do have Baron Mordor at 6 stars. So again, the Hulk and Dimension Duel is almost a must at this point. It's guaranteeing you a lot more wins than you would with Baron Mordor. But Baron is actually really nice in Omega War. So I want to say his cooldown's a little bit lower too. 36. Yeah, so a little bit less of cooldown. But yeah, that's going to do it for this video, guys. I hope if you found it helpful. It's a little bit longer than I intended it to be, but I had to share this new build. I am frying in Omega War and Dimension Duel, and I want more people to use it, or at least utilize it. Like I said, I don't think she needs to be nerfed, but I wanted to help you do better in PvP. So smash the like button if you found this helpful. Until next time, guys, lock it in.